Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Man, it's been a whirlwind of a month and we have a lot to catch up on since the last video. The past month has been extremely busy with the indoor open wheel racing season, so this will be a very comprehensive episode with a lot of detail. So let's get started and roll the intro. Thanks again for joining me, and before we get going, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. It's going to help steer more aspiring motorsports photographer to the content. The indoor open wheel season kicked off on December 14th with the POWRi Midget Series at the Southern Illinois Fairgrounds in DuQuoin, Illinois. It was also a chance for me to try some new off-camera flash techniques before the Tulsa Shootout and the Chili Bowl. This event in Tulsa, Oklahoma is considered to be the most prestigious indoor race in the world, so I was loaded for bear with equipment going into this event. Multiple lenses, camera bodies, all kinds of flashes, different reflectors, different stands. It's a ton of work, but since I'm the official photographer for the Tulsa Shootout and Chili Bowl, I wanted to ensure that my setup would work as planned. And one thing about motorsports photography, it's the less glamorous side of it, is the amount of travel that you do. You need to be prepared for a lot of windshield time in all weather conditions and sometimes late into the night. The drive to DuQuoin was an uneventful 3-hour drive with rain most of the way, but that's one of the great things about indoor racing, no chance of a rainout. Now this is a permanent track built inside the Southern Illinois Center at the fairgrounds. The track and pit area is very tight, and the track has very little banking. That usually makes for some pretty good racing, but there's usually also a lot of wrecks, and that can make this event run late into the night. Now, I've been experimenting quite a bit over the years with off-camera flash. For this event, I was using a technique that I've used with drag racing. It utilizes the Godox AD600 Pro, which is a studio light, and I used an aperture narrow reflector, which is kind of a long throw reflector, trying to throw the light a long distance. Doing that, I was hoping I could freeze the mud spray coming off the tires, plus light up the driver's face coming off the corner. Now your best chance to get single car shots are during the practice session, or we call them hot laps, or during qualifying. For the most part, it's the only time I'll shoot dirt cars from outside of the track. Now remember when I said in my last video to never turn your back on a race car at speed? Well, this happened right where I was standing. The reason I didn't get pictures of the crash was because I was watching the car lose control in my viewfinder long before he got to me, and I turned and burned. Overall, I was pretty happy with the results that I got, and I was ready to take this rig to Tulsa. It was a long drive that night, but it kind of goes with the territory. Now shifting gears, I left DuQuoin, Illinois in my rearview mirror and started preparing for the Tulsa Shootout in Tulsa, Oklahoma. This event is a survival of the fittest for the racers, track officials, and photographers. It's 5 long days and nights, and this year there were 1,859 cars entered. Yeah, you heard that right. The SageNet Expo building in Tulsa is an amazing place. It's nearly 450,000 square feet, or 14 acres, all under one roof, that has no center supports. It's a temporary track that's built every year with around 700 truckloads of clay. This year, between the Chili Bowl and the Tulsa Shootout, there were 2,224 entries across 7 divisions. There were 229 rounds of practice, 512 races, and 5,111 competitive green flag laps. Out of all of this, there were only 7 Golden Driller trophies given out. Now, for many years, Jim Viviano was the official photographer for these 2 events. And sorry to say, Jim passed away last year. I was approached about being the official photographer for these 2 events. It was a big decision to make. As the official photographer, you're the only one allowed to sell physical prints on site during the event, and the teams expect to walk away with a physical print. Now for the Tulsa Shootout, it's a monumental task to shoot all 1,859 cars during the Monday practice session, get the artwork done, then take the files to a local printer so we can be ready to sell late in the day on Tuesday through the remainder of the week. On practice day, the building opens at 7 a.m., so that meant a 6 a.m. wake-up call. And we didn't finish shooting that day till about 7 o'clock that night. This business model is something I had never done before. However, I'm lucky enough that two of my good friends and fellow photographers, Mr. 007, aka Dave Olson, and Tim Alwyn, were willing to jump on board. Now, Dave and Tim are two of the finest photographers in dirt track racing. They've both been doing this much longer than me. Matter of fact, Dave is celebrating his 50th year of shooting motorsports in 2025. And better yet, they're both well versed in this business model. Now, because you don't have time to make adjustments when shooting over 1,800 cars in one day, and the track changes from lap to lap, from a tacky, no-dust track to super thick dust, Tim and I both set up off-camera flashes, and between the two of us, we had 12 flashes set up. Yeah, you heard that right, 12 flashes all down in turn one. Now, because there's only 380 cars for the Chili Bowl, which is still a lot, but nothing compared to the Tulsa Shootout, we were able to offer both right side and left side car shots. Tim shot the inside and I shot the outside while getting pelted by dirt. And while Tim and I were shooting, we were handing off our memory cards to Dave so he could start processing. In the end, I believe we ended up printing around 3,400 11x14 prints. Like I said, it was an enormous undertaking. I won't lie, I struggled as a shooter in this environment. You're doing production shooting, and I'm not used to being under the pressure to get this many shots in this amount of time. I usually shoot at my leisure, what I want, when I want. We shot for 13 hours that day, and my hand was aching pretty good from gripping the camera. This took an enormous amount of teamwork and coordination. In the preceding months, we had several Zoom calls leading up to the event to go over every possible detail. It was a huge learning experience for me, and these guys taught me a lot. Plus, we had a great time doing it. Even with all of the production shots we did for printing, we still had a lot of time to shoot what we wanted to shoot. I was pretty happy with my shots. This whole thing was a huge success, and I'm looking forward to take what I learned from this year and apply it next year. Now that the indoor season's behind me, I'm shifting gears once again to finalize my plans to kick off the NHRA season in Gainesville, Florida on March 6th. It's going to be a grueling season, but I'm really looking forward to meeting new photographers, racers, crews, seeing new tracks, and seeing this great country. I'll see you guys down the road, and if you see me at the track, wave me down and let's talk.